Dr. Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished stitching up another wounded rebel fighter. The makeshift medical station inside the abandoned factory was far from ideal, but it was the best they could manage on Kepler 442b. The human colony had been fighting for independence from the Zephyrian Empire for 3 years now, and Sarah had seen more blood and suffering than any doctor should. The Zephyrians were a proud warrior race, standing nearly 8 feet tall with crystalline skin that shifted colors based on their emotions. Their empire spanned dozens of star systems, and they viewed humans as nothing more than useful pets who had grown too bold. When the human colonies declared independence, the Zephyrians responded with overwhelming force. Sarah had been a civilian, doctor on the colony ship that brought the first wave of human settlers to this world. She never wanted to be part of a war, but when the fighting started, she couldn't stand by and watch people die. Her small clinic became a field hospital, then moved underground when the Zephyrian bombardments intensified. "Doc, we've got incoming. Wounded," called Marcus, one of the rebel fighters who helped coordinate their operations. His face was grim as he rushed into the medical bay. 3 humans and something else. Sarah looked up from her patient, a young woman whose arm had been badly burned by Zephyrian energy weapons. "Something else?" "You'll see," Marcus said, then spoke into his communication device. "Bring them in." The stretcher-bearers carried in the human casualties first, 2 men with shrapnel wounds and a woman with a severe concussion. Sarah immediately began triaging them, her trained hands moving quickly to assess injuries and prioritize treatment. She had just started working on the most critical patient when the 4th stretcher arrived. Sarah's hands froze when she saw what lay on the blood-stained fabric. It was a Zephyrian, but unlike any she had seen before. While most Zephyrians had skin that ranged from deep blue to purple, this one's crystalline flesh was pure white with veins of silver running through it like living lightning. The alien was smaller than the typical Zephyrian warrior, perhaps 6.5 feet tall with more delicate features. Most striking of all, the creature's skin was flickering between white and black, a sign of extreme pain in Zephyrian physiology. "Are you insane?" Sarah snapped at Marcus. "You brought a Zephyrian here to our secret medical facility?" "Doc, listen to me," Marcus said urgently. "This isn't just any Zephyrian. Look at the markings on her armor." Sarah glanced at the ornate armor pieces that had been removed from the alien. The metal was inscribed with symbols she didn't recognize, but they seemed to pulse with an inner light. More importantly, the armor was made from a material she had never seen before, something that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Royal Guard?" she guessed. "Higher," Marcus said grimly. "According to our intelligence, those markings indicate direct royal bloodline. We think this is Princess Zarathul, King Thanemor's younger sister." Sarah stared at the unconscious alien in disbelief. Princess Zarathul was known throughout the galaxy as the Silver Lightning, a warrior who had never lost a battle and was said to be the king's most trusted advisor. She was also known to be one of the most vocal opponents of human independence, believing that humanity needed to be taught proper respect for their Zephyrian masters. "How did you capture her?" Sarah asked, though she was already reaching for her medical scanner. Despite everything, she couldn't watch any living being suffer without trying to help. "We didn't capture her," said Tom, one of the stretcher-bearers. His voice was shaky. "We found her in the ruins of the Eastern Settlement. She was protecting a group of human children from a Zephyrian patrol that had gone rogue." Sarah's scanner beeped as it analyzed the princess's injuries. Multiple fractures in her rib cage, severe internal bleeding, and what appeared to be massive trauma from energy weapon impacts. The alien had taken a tremendous beating and her vital signs were weakening rapidly. "She was protecting human children?" Sarah asked in disbelief. "The patrol had orders to execute all civilians in the eastern settlements," Tom continued. "When we arrived, we found her standing over a dozen kids, barely conscious but still fighting. The rogue patrol was retreating and she collapsed right after we secured the area." Sarah looked at the readings on her scanner again. The princess was dying, and without immediate surgery she would be dead within the hour. Every instinct she had as a doctor demanded that she save this life, but her rational mind screamed warnings. This was the enemy. This was someone who had killed countless humans in battle. This was also potentially their most valuable prisoner. "We need to contact Rebel Command," Marcus said, clearly thinking along the same lines. They'll want to interrogate her, maybe use her as leverage for negotiations. She'll be dead before we can move her, Sarah replied, still studying the medical readings. Her physiology is different from humans, but the trauma patterns are clear. She needs surgery now, or she dies. Marcus frowned. Doc, I know you want to help, but think about this logically. How many of our people has she killed? How many colonies has she helped destroy? Maybe it's better if… No. Sarah's voice was firm as she began preparing surgical instruments. I took an oath to do no harm and to preserve life wherever possible. That oath doesn't have exceptions for nationality or species. But she's the enemy, Marcus protested. Sarah looked up at him, her eyes blazing with determination. Right now, she's a patient, and if what Tom says is true, she risked her life to protect human children. That has to count for something. As Sarah began working to save the princess's life, she had no idea that her decision would change the course of the war and her own fate forever. The operating theater fell silent, except for the steady beeping of monitoring equipment and the soft hum of surgical tools. Outside, the battle for human independence raged on, but inside the small room, a human doctor fought to save the life of an alien princess who had shown unexpected mercy. The princess's skin flickered between white and pale gold as Sarah worked, a sign that her body was responding to treatment. For the first time in hours, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. She might not be able to end this war, but she could save one life today. And sometimes, that was enough. The surgery lasted 6 grueling hours. Sarah's hands ached and her back screamed in protest, but she refused to take a break. The princess's physiology was more complex than she had initially realized. Zephyrian blood contained microscopic crystal structures that helped conduct their natural bioelectric abilities. But these same crystals made surgery incredibly delicate. One wrong cut could cause a cascade failure that would kill the patient instantly. How is she doing, Doc? Marcus asked quietly from the observation area. He had been watching the entire procedure, occasionally updating Rebel Command on the situation. Stable but critical, Sarah replied without looking up from her patient. Her people's healing abilities are remarkable, but they can't compensate for damage this severe. The energy weapon hits shattered several of her internal crystal matrices. I've managed to repair most of the damage, but she'll need time to regenerate. As Sarah began closing the surgical incisions, she noticed something unusual. The princess's skin, which had been flickering erratically between colors throughout the surgery, began to stabilize into a soft, golden hue. In Zephyrian culture, gold indicated deep gratitude and respect. Is she conscious? Marcus asked, noticing the color change as well. No, but her subconscious mind might be aware of what's happening, Sarah explained. Zephyrian neural activity doesn't shut down completely under anesthesia like human brains do. Some part of her knows she's being helped. 3 days passed before Princess Zarathul finally awakened. Sarah had barely left her side, monitoring the alien's recovery and adjusting treatments as needed. She had seen many species during her medical training, but Zephyrian physiology was uniquely challenging. Their bodies operated on principles that seemed to blend organic biology with quantum mechanics in ways that human science was only beginning to understand. When the princess's eyes finally opened, they immediately fixed on Sarah with an intensity that made the human doctor step back involuntarily. Zephyrian eyes were like looking into liquid starlight, and the princess's were particularly striking, shifting between silver and deep violet as her consciousness fully returned. You. The princess spoke in accented but fluent human standard language. Her voice was musical with harmonic undertones that seemed to resonate in Sarah's chest. You are the one who repaired my body. Sarah nodded cautiously. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. You were badly injured and we brought you here for treatment. The princess tried to sit up, then winced as her healing injuries protested. Sarah immediately moved to help her, adjusting the bed to a more comfortable position. The simple act of kindness seemed to surprise the alien royal. Why? The princess asked simply. Because you needed help, Sarah replied, and because you saved those children. The princess's skin shifted to a deep blue, indicating confusion and contemplation. You know who I am. Princess Zarathul, sister to King Thanemor, commander of the 3rd Battle Fleet, Sarah recited. Also known as the Silver Lightning for your combat prowess. Then you know I have killed many of your people in battle, the the princess said quietly. Why would you preserve my life? Sarah pulled up a chair and sat down beside the bed. Because those children you protected were also my people, and because every life has value, regardless of which side of a war it's on. The princess stared at her for a long moment, her skin cycling through several colors that Sarah didn't recognize. Finally, she spoke again. In my culture, a life debt is sacred. You have given me back my existence when you could have allowed me to perish. By our laws, I owe you a service of equal value. I don't want anything from you except maybe some information about why you are protecting human children, Sarah said honestly. The princess's expression grew troubled, her skin taking on darker hues. The patrol that attacked the settlement had gone beyond their orders. They were supposed to evacuate civilians for relocation, not execute them. When I arrived and saw what they intended to do, she paused, struggling with the words. Children are sacred to my people, regardless of species. I could not allow such dishonor. You disobeyed direct orders? There were no orders to harm children, the princess said firmly. The patrol commander had been consuming battle stimulants for days. His judgment was compromised. When he ordered the execution of innocents, I intervened. Sarah felt a strange mixture of hope and confusion. So not all Zephyrians support the killing of civilians? The princess's skin shifted to a pale green, indicating careful consideration. My people are not as united in this conflict as your leaders might believe. Many of us question the wisdom of suppressing human independence through pure force. We have observed your species for decades, and your capacity for growth and adaptation is remarkable. Before Sarah could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Marcus burst into the medical bay, his face pale with fear. Doc, we need to move now. Zephyrian forces have found our location. They're surrounding the building. Through the small window, Sarah could see the distinctive shimmer of Zephyrian cloaking technology as dozens of warriors took positions around their hideout. Their crystalline armor gleamed in the artificial light, and the hum of charging energy weapons filled the air. They've come for me, the princess said quietly, attempting to stand despite her injuries. You're in no condition to fight, Sarah protested, moving to support her. I must face them, the princess replied. If they believe I was captured rather than rescued, it will go badly for all of you. Marcus was coordinating the evacuation of patients and equipment, but Sarah could see it was hopeless. The Zephyrians had them completely surrounded, and their defensive positions were minimal. They had perhaps minutes before the assault began. There has to be another way, Sarah said desperately. The princess looked at her with those impossible eyes, and Sarah saw something she hadn't expected: genuine concern for human lives. There is one possibility, but it would require great trust. What do you mean? Allow me to walk out first, the princess said. Let me speak to their commander. I can claim that I was rescued by humans after being attacked by rogue elements in our own forces. It is the truth, after all. Sarah felt her heart racing. And if they don't believe you? The princess's skin shifted to a determined silver, the color that had earned her the nickname Silver Lightning. Then we fight together. But if they do believe me, I can ensure safe passage for this facility and everyone in it. Marcus looked between them incredulously. Doc, you can't seriously be considering trusting her. Sarah studied the alien princess's face, trying to read emotions and features that were both beautiful and completely inhuman. Everything about this situation went against her training, her common sense, and probably her survival instincts. But something in the princess's manner convinced her that this was their best chance. What do you need from me? Sarah asked. The princess smiled, an expression that transformed her entire face. Walk beside me, Dr. Chen. Show them that you chose to save my life, not capture it. In my culture, such courage and honor cannot be ignored. As they prepared to step outside and face the Zephyrian forces together, Sarah realized that the next few minutes would either end the war or end her life. But looking at the alien princess who had risked everything to protect human children, she knew she was making the right choice. Sarah helped Princess Zarathul to her feet, noticing how the alien's legs trembled with the effort. The surgery had been successful, but recovery would take time. Still, the princess stood with dignity, her crystalline skin taking on the silver hue that marked her determination. Remember, the princess said softly as they approached the entrance, you are not my captor. You are my healer. Stand proud of what you have done. The heavy doors of the facility opened with a mechanical groan. Outside, Sarah could see at least 50 Zephyrian warriors arranged in perfect formation. Their armor gleamed like liquid metal, and their energy weapons hummed with barely contained power. At the center of the formation stood a massive Zephyrian, easily 9 feet tall, whose skin displayed the deep purple of high military rank. "Commander Veltar," the princess called out in the musical Zephyrian language, then switched to human standards so Sarah could understand. "I greet you with honor." The commander's weapon remained trained on Sarah as he responded. "Princess Zarathul, we have searched for you for 3 days. When we detected your biosignature at this rebel facility, we feared the worst." "Your fears were misplaced," the princess replied, walking slowly toward the formation with Sarah at her side. "These humans saved my life after I was attacked by rogue elements of our own forces." A murmur went through the assembled warriors. Sarah could see the surprise in their body language, even though their faces remained hidden behind battle masks. Commander Veltar lowered his weapon slightly. "Explain." "Lieutenant Corrivan's patrol in the eastern settlement had been compromised by battle stimulants," the princess said clearly. "When they began executing human children in violation of our codes of conduct, I intervened. The lieutenant turned his weapons on me rather than face the dishonor of his actions." The commander's skin shifted to orange, indicating anger and disgust. Sarah had learned enough about Zephyrian color patterns during her treatment of the princess to understand the basic emotions. "These accusations are serious, Princess. Lieutenant Corrivan was found dead along with his entire patrol. Because I was forced to defend innocent lives," the princess replied without hesitation. "When I collapsed from my injuries, this human doctor risked her own safety to preserve my life. She performed surgery for 6 hours to repair damage that should have been fatal." Sarah felt dozens of alien eyes focusing on her, and she fought the urge to step backward. Instead, she maintained her position beside the princess, trying to project the confidence and dignity that the situation demanded. "Is this true, human?" Commander Veltar asked directly. Sarah cleared her throat. "Princess Zarathul was brought to our medical facility with severe injuries. I treated her according to my oath as a physician to preserve life wherever possible." "Even though she is your enemy?" "Even though we are at war," Sarah corrected. "She was protecting children who had done nothing wrong. That made her someone worth saving." The commander studied them both for a long moment. Sarah could hear her heart pounding so loudly she was certain the Zephyrians could detect it with their enhanced senses. Finally, he spoke again. "Princess, your brother the king has been informed of your disappearance. He has ordered the immediate withdrawal of all forces from this sector until you are recovered." The princess's skin shifted to gold, indicating surprise. "He halted military operations?" "King Thanemor values your life above territorial gains," the commander replied. "When I report that you were saved by human compassion, it will carry significant weight in the Royal Council." Sarah blinked in amazement. A temporary ceasefire because one human doctor had chosen to save an alien life? It seemed impossible, but the evidence was standing right in front of her. "There is more to discuss," the princess said. "But first I must ensure the safety of those who aided me. Commander, I formally request protection for this facility and all within it." "Princess, these are rebel fighters who have killed our warriors in battle. And this is a medical facility where they have saved the life of your princess," Zarathul countered, her skin flashing with silver intensity. "Honor demands that we respect those who show mercy." The standoff stretched on for several tense seconds. Sarah could see movement behind the windows of the facility, as the other rebels waited to see if they would live or die. Finally, Commander Veltar lowered his weapon completely. "By royal decree, this facility and its occupants are under temporary protection," he announced. "However, Princess, you must return with us immediately for medical evaluation and debriefing." "Of course," the princess agreed. "But I request that Dr. Chen accompany us as my personal physician. Her knowledge of my injuries and recovery needs is essential." Sarah's eyes widened. "Princess, I can't abandon my patients here." "Your patients will be safe under the protection order," the princess replied. "And there are things we must discuss that cannot wait." Commander Veltar looked skeptical. "Bringing a human to the Royal Medical Facility is highly irregular." "Everything about this situation is irregular," the princess pointed out. "But irregular solutions sometimes produce the best results." Sarah found herself in an impossible position. Leaving the rebel medical station would mean abandoning wounded fighters who needed her care. But refusing the princess's request might endanger everyone at the facility. "How long would I be gone?" she asked. No more than a few days, the princess assured her, long enough to ensure my full recovery and to participate in some important discussions. Sarah looked back at Marcus, who had appeared in the doorway behind them. His face was grim, but he nodded slightly. They both knew this might be their only chance to establish some kind of diplomatic contact with the Zephyrian leadership. "I'll come," Sarah said finally, "but I want guarantees about the safety of everyone here." Commander Veltar's skin shifted to a lighter purple, indicating grudging respect. "You have my word as a warrior of the Third Fleet. No harm will come to this facility or its occupants while you are under royal protection." As Sarah gathered a few essential medical supplies and said quick goodbyes to her patients, she wondered what she was getting herself into. 3 days ago, she had been a rebel doctor hiding in the shadows, treating wounded fighters and hoping to survive another day. Now she was about to become the first human civilian to enter a Zephyrian royal facility. The transport that carried them away from the facility was unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. The interior was designed for Zephyrian physiology, but adjustments were quickly made for her comfort. Princess Zarathul rested on a medical platform, while Sarah monitored her vital signs with a combination of human and Zephyrian medical equipment. "Doctor," the princess said softly, as they traveled through the crystal canyons of the planet's surface, "what I am about to show you will change everything you believe about this war. Are you prepared for that?" Sarah looked out at the alien landscape, rushing past, and realized that her simple act of medical compassion had set events in motion that were far beyond anything she could have imagined. "Guess we'll find out," she replied. The Zephyrian Royal Medical Facility was beyond anything Sarah could have imagined. Built into a massive crystal formation that rose from the planet's surface like a frozen waterfall, the structure seemed to pulse with its own inner light. As their transport approached the landing platform, Sarah could see that the building was not just constructed from crystal, but appeared to be grown from it, as if the entire structure was a living organism. "My people's architecture is based on symbiosis with our environment," Princess Zarathul explained, noticing Sarah's amazement. "We do not build upon our world so much as become part of them." The medical bay where they took the princess was a perfect example of this philosophy. The walls were lined with crystalline formations that hummed with energy, and the medical equipment seemed to be integrated directly into the living rock. Zephyrian physicians moved with fluid grace, their hands glowing with the same energy that powered their technology. "Dr. Chen," the princess called as the alien medics began their examination, "please observe their techniques. Your insights might prove valuable." Sarah watched in fascination as the Zephyrian doctors used their natural bioelectric abilities to scan the princess's injuries. Their hands passed over her body in complex patterns, and the crystals in the walls responded by displaying three-dimensional images of her internal structure. "Remarkable," Sarah murmured. "You're using quantum resonance to map cellular damage." The lead physician, an elderly Zephyrian whose skin bore the deep blue markings of advanced medical training, looked up in surprise. "You understand our methods, human?" "The principles are similar to techniques we use, just far more advanced," Sarah replied honestly. "Your people's natural connection to quantum fields gives you capabilities we can only achieve with massive machinery." "Show me," the physician requested, gesturing to a secondary scanning console. Sarah approached the device cautiously. The interface was completely alien, but the underlying physics were familiar. She placed her hands on the control surfaces and found that they responded to bioelectric fields, just like the princess's skin. "May I?" she asked, indicating she wanted to scan the princess herself. The Zephyrian physicians exchanged glances, their skin colors shifting through various patterns that Sarah was learning to read as professional discussion. Finally, the lead physician nodded. Sarah began the scan, using her knowledge of human medical principles combined with what she had observed of Zephyrian techniques. To her amazement, the crystal displays began showing detailed images of the princess's healing progress. "Fascinating," the lead physician said, his skin shifting to gold with professional admiration. "You compensate for your lack of natural quantum sensitivity by using mathematical precision. Very innovative." "Different approaches, same goal," Sarah replied with a smile. "Healing transcends species." As the examination continued, Sarah found herself working alongside the Zephyrian medical team as if she had been trained there. The princess's recovery was progressing well, but there were still concerns about long-term damage to her bioelectric systems. The energy weapon impacts disrupted several neural pathways, Sarah explained to the medical team. In human patients, we would use targeted electromagnetic therapy, but your people's physiology integrates those functions naturally. Precisely the problem, the lead physician replied. The princess's natural healing abilities are fighting against themselves. The damaged pathways are trying to regenerate, but they keep forming incorrect connections. Sarah studied the quantum scans, her medical training translating the alien imagery into concepts she could understand. What if we temporarily suppress the automatic healing response and guide the regeneration manually? The suggestion caused a stir among the Zephyrian physicians. Their skin colors shifted rapidly through patterns that Sarah was beginning to recognize as intense professional debate. It has never been attempted, the lead physician finally said. The risks are considerable. So is permanent nerve damage, Sarah pointed out. Princess, this is your decision. The procedure would be painful and potentially dangerous, but it might fully restore your bioelectric capabilities. The princess looked between Sarah and the Zephyrian medical team. Dr. Chen, you have already saved my life once. If you believe this treatment will help, I am willing to undergo the risk. The procedure took place 3 hours later in the facility's most advanced treatment chamber. Sarah found herself in the unprecedented position of leading a team of alien physicians in a medical technique that had never been attempted on a Zephyrian patient. Begin neural suppression, she directed, monitoring the quantum displays as the princess's natural healing abilities were gradually dampened. With the automatic regeneration temporarily halted, Sarah and the team began the delicate process of manually guiding nerve regrowth. It was like performing microsurgery at a quantum level, requiring precise coordination between human medical knowledge and Zephyrian biotechnology. Pathway 7 is responding well, reported one of the physicians. Confirmed, Sarah replied, adjusting the guidance parameters. Princess, how are you feeling? Like lightning trapped in crystal, Zarathul replied through gritted teeth. But I can sense the damaged areas healing correctly. The procedure continued for 6 grueling hours. Sarah's hands ached from manipulating the alien controls and her eyes burned from staring at quantum resonance displays. But gradually they achieved success. The princess's bioelectric pathways regenerated in proper alignment, restoring full function to her nervous system. Remarkable, the lead physician said as they completed the final scans. Full neural integration restored. Dr. Chen, this technique could revolutionize our approach to bioelectric trauma. Sarah collapsed into a chair, exhausted but elated. It's all about understanding that biology follows universal principles, regardless of species. As the medical team celebrated their success, Princess Zarathul sat up slowly, her skin cycling through a rainbow of colors as her restored nervous system came fully online. Dr. Chen, she said formally, you have now preserved my life twice. The debt I owe you has grown beyond anything our laws contemplate. I told you before, I don't want anything, Sarah replied tiredly. But I do, the princess said, her skin settling into a determined silver. I want to end this war. Before Sarah could respond, the chamber doors opened and Commander Veltar entered, accompanied by 2 other Zephyrians whose ornate armor marked them as high-ranking officials. Princess, the commander said, your brother requests your immediate presence. The human colonies have proposed a ceasefire negotiation, and King Thanamor wishes to discuss terms. The princess stood, moving with fluid grace that showed her complete recovery. Commander, Dr. Chen will accompany me to the Royal Council chamber. Princess, that is highly irregular. No human has ever saved the life of Zephyrian royalty twice in 4 days, the princess interrupted. Dr. Chen has earned the right to speak for her people. Sarah felt a wave of panic. Princess, I'm not a diplomat or a politician. I'm just a doctor. Exactly, Zarathul replied with a smile that was becoming familiar. You are someone who sees lives instead of enemies, healing instead of conquest. That perspective is exactly what this negotiation needs. As they prepared to leave for the Royal Council chamber, Sarah realized that her simple decision to save an injured alien had led her to the center of interstellar politics. She was about to become the first human to address the Zephyrian royal court, and the words she spoke might determine whether the war continued or peace finally had a chance. Looking at Princess Zarathul, whose skin glowed with health and determination, Sarah felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, one act of medical compassion could heal more than just physical wounds. The Royal Council chamber was a sight that would stay with Sarah forever. The vast circular room was carved from a single massive crystal, its walls alive with shifting patterns of light that responded to the emotions and thoughts of those within. At the center sat King Thanemor on a throne that seemed to grow directly from the living rock, his imposing form radiating authority and power. The king was even more magnificent than Sarah had imagined. Nearly 10 feet tall, his crystalline skin displayed deep purple veins of royal lineage that pulsed with inner light. His eyes were like twin stars, and when they fixed on Sarah, she felt as though he was seeing directly into her soul. "Sister," the king's voice resonated through the chamber with harmonic overtones that made the crystal walls sing in response. "We rejoice in your safe return." Princess Zarathul's skin took on the golden hue of deep contemplation. "Brother, I have observed something extraordinary. Humans possess what we lack, the ability to transcend their own limitations through pure determination and creativity. Dr. Chen had never treated Zephyrian physiology before. Yet she adapted and innovated in ways that saved my life twice over." She gestured to Sarah. "Their species doesn't rely on inherited abilities like our quantum sensitivity or bioelectric control. Instead, they develop tools, techniques, and knowledge through trial and learning. This makes them incredibly adaptable." "Adaptable enough to be useful allies rather than troublesome subjects?" asked Counselor Nethara, an elderly Zephyrian whose ancient skin bore the white markings of wisdom. "More than useful," the princess replied. "Essential. Our empire has grown static, brother. We rely on our natural advantages and traditional methods. We haven't truly innovated in centuries. Humans force us to think differently, to see possibilities we would never consider." Sarah felt compelled to speak. "Your Majesty, if I may add something." The king nodded permission. "The medical techniques we developed together over the past few days were neither purely human nor purely Zephyrian. They were something new, something better than either of our species could achieve alone. That's what humans do best. We adapt, we combine, we create new solutions from existing pieces." General Corathane's skin shifted to orange skepticism. "Pretty words, human. But what practical benefit would such cooperation provide the Empire?" Sarah thought quickly, remembering everything she had observed about Zephyrian society and technology during her time at the medical facility. "Your people's technology is incredibly advanced, but it's specialized for Zephyrian physiology and quantum sensitivity," she said. "That limits its application to other environments and species. Human adaptability could help expand Zephyrian technology to work across different conditions, different worlds, different forms of life. Furthermore," she continued, gaining confidence, "your empire covers dozens of star systems with hundreds of different species. Many of those species probably can't benefit from purely Zephyrian technology and medicine. Human adaptability could help bridge those gaps." The chamber erupted in discussion as nobles and advisors debated the implications. Sarah watched their skin colors shift through complex patterns that she was beginning to read as intense political calculation. "Silence," the king commanded, and the chamber immediately fell quiet. Dr. Chen raises intriguing possibilities. "Sister, what specific arrangement do you propose?" Princess Zarathul stepped forward, her skin taking on the formal silver of royal decree. "Brother, I propose a new model for human-Zephyrian relations. Not subjects and rulers, but partners in a grand experiment. Grant the human colonies autonomous status within the Empire, allowing them to govern themselves while contributing their unique capabilities to imperial projects." The general's skin flashed angry red. "Autonomous status? They rebelled against imperial authority." "They rebelled against oppression," the princess corrected. "There is a difference. Dr. Chen, would such an arrangement be acceptable to human colonial leadership?" Sarah's mind raced. She was being asked to negotiate terms for the entire human independence movement, something she was completely unqualified to do. But she had to try. "I can't speak for all human leadership," she said honestly, "but I believe most would accept autonomous status if it came with genuine self-governance and respect for human values." "And in return?" the king asked. "Humans would contribute their adaptability and innovation to imperial projects. Medical advances, technological improvements, solutions to problems that traditional approaches can't solve." The king leaned back in his throne, the crystal formations around him humming with increased energy as he contemplated the proposal. Finally, he spoke. "General Corthane, what is the current military situation?" "Difficult, Majesty. Human resistance has proven more persistent than anticipated. Their guerrilla tactics and adaptability make them expensive to suppress. A prolonged conflict would drain resources we need for other imperial concerns." "And the potential benefits of Dr. Chen's proposal?" The general's skin shifted reluctantly to neutral purple. "If humans truly could expand our technology's applications, the strategic advantages would be considerable. Access to new worlds, improved medical care for non-Zephyrian populations, enhanced adaptability for Imperial forces." King Thanemor stood from his throne, his imposing figure dominating the chamber. "Dr. Chen, your actions in preserving our sister's life have opened a door that neither species had considered. We are prepared to authorize preliminary negotiations for autonomous human status within the Empire." Sarah felt her heart racing with excitement and terror. "Your Majesty, I'm honored, but I'm not qualified to negotiate such agreements." "No," the king agreed, "but you are qualified to demonstrate their value. Dr. Chen, we offer you a position as special medical advisor to the Imperial Court, with full diplomatic status. You will serve as a bridge between our species while formal negotiations proceed." The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the offer sank in. Sarah looked at Princess Zarathul, whose skin glowed with golden approval and silver determination. "What exactly would such a position involve?" Sarah asked carefully. "You would establish a joint medical research facility, combining human and Zephyrian techniques," the princess explained. "You would also serve as liaison between human colonial leadership and the imperial government, helping to prevent misunderstandings that could derail negotiations." Sarah thought of her patients back at the rebel medical station, the wounded fighters who needed her care. But she also thought of the larger picture, the chance to end a war that was killing people on both sides. "I accept," she said simply, "but with conditions." Zarathul approached the throne with formal grace, her skin displaying the traditional silver and gold patterns of royal greeting. "My king, my brother, I bring before you Dr. Sarah Chen, who has twice preserved my life and opened possibilities we had not considered." The king's attention shifted to Sarah, and she felt the weight of cosmic authority pressing down on her. Around the chamber, dozens of Zephyrian nobles and military commanders watched with intense curiosity. No human had ever stood in this sacred space. "Dr. Chen," the king said, his voice somehow both gentle and commanding, "our sister speaks of debts that cannot be repaid. Tell us what transpired." Sarah took a deep breath, drawing on reserves of courage she didn't know she possessed. "Your Majesty, I am simply a physician. When your sister was brought to me injured, I treated her as I would any patient. When she needed advanced care, I provided it. I acted according to my oath to preserve life wherever possible." "Even the life of your enemy?" asked General Corthane, the king's chief military advisor. His skin displayed the deep red of suspicion and distrust. "She wasn't my enemy when she was protecting human children," Sarah replied firmly. "She was someone who chose to defend innocent lives at great personal cost. That made her someone worth saving." A murmur ran through the assembled nobles. Sarah could see their skin colors shifting through various patterns as they processed her words. "The human speaks truth," Princess Zarathul said. "But there is more to consider, my king. Dr. Chen's methods of healing have shown us something remarkable about her species." "Explain," the king commanded. The princess gestured, and holographic displays materialized in the air, showing the medical scans from Sarah's treatments. "Observe how she approaches complex problems. Humans lack our natural quantum sensitivity. Yet Dr. Chen developed innovative techniques that surpassed our own medical capabilities. She sees solutions where we see only obstacles." Sarah watched in amazement as the displays showed her surgical work from perspectives she had never seen. The precision of her movements, the creative adaptations she had made to alien technology, the successful integration of human and Zephyrian medical principles. Furthermore, the princess continued, her willingness to risk her own safety for the life of a supposed enemy demonstrates a moral flexibility that could serve both our species well. She chose healing over hatred, cooperation over conflict. General Corthane's skin shifted to darker red. One human's actions do not represent their entire species. We have seen their capacity for violence and rebellion. Have we? The princess challenged. Or have we seen their response to oppression? Dr. Chen, tell the council why your people sought independence. King Thanomor's eyes flashed with interest, their starlight intensity focusing entirely on Sarah. State your conditions. Dr. Chen. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her, but she drew strength from the memory of the wounded fighters she had left behind. First, immediate medical amnesty for all combat casualties on both sides. No one dies from treatable injuries while negotiations proceed. Acceptable, the king replied without hesitation. Second, I want joint medical teams established immediately. Human and Zephyrian medics working together at multiple locations to demonstrate the benefits of cooperation. Princess Zarathul's skin glowed with approval. An excellent proposal. Practical cooperation builds trust better than words. Third, Sarah continued, I need regular communication with human colonial leadership to ensure I'm representing their interests accurately. I may be a bridge between our species, but I won't be a puppet for either side. General Corthane's skin shifted to cautious orange. That condition could pose security risks. Trust poses security risks, Sarah replied firmly. But so does continued warfare. If we're serious about peace, we have to start somewhere. The king considered her words while the chamber waited in tense silence. Finally, he nodded. All conditions accepted. Counselor Nathara, draft the formal agreements. Dr. Chen, you will have full diplomatic immunity and access to imperial resources for your medical research. As the formal ceremonies concluded, and the nobles began filing out of the chamber, Sarah found herself alone with the royal siblings. The casual atmosphere was a stark contrast to the grand formalities of moments before. Doctor, the king said, his voice now warm rather than commanding, our sister speaks highly of your character. But I must ask, do you truly believe this arrangement can work? Sarah looked between the towering alien royals, these beings of crystal and starlight who had just offered her the chance to reshape the galaxy. Your Majesty, 3 days ago I was hiding in a basement, treating wounded rebels with salvaged medical supplies. Today I'm negotiating peace treaties in a crystal palace. If that's possible, then I think anything is possible. The king's skin shifted to a warm gold that Sarah was learning to associate with amusement. A fair point. Sister, show Dr. Chen to her new quarters and begin preparations for the medical exchange program. Over the following weeks, Sarah threw herself into her new role with the same dedication she had once applied to battlefield medicine. The joint medical facility that was established became a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Human adaptability combined with Zephyrian biotechnology produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. The first major breakthrough came when treating a rare, crystalline disease that affected Zephyrian children. Traditional methods had limited success, but Sarah's team developed a technique that used human stem cell cultivation principles adapted for Zephyrian physiology. The treatment saved dozens of young lives and demonstrated the practical value of human-Zephyrian cooperation to skeptics on both sides. Dr. Chen, Princess Zarathul said one morning as they reviewed the latest medical reports, you should see the intelligence briefings. Human resistance activities have decreased by 70% since the joint medical teams were deployed. People fight harder when they're desperate, Sarah replied, not looking up from her work. Give them hope for a peaceful solution and most prefer negotiation to violence. The princess's skin displayed patterns that Sarah had learned to recognize as deep thought. The formal peace negotiations begin next week. The human delegation includes several of your former colleagues from the Rebel Medical Corps. Sarah smiled. Marcus will never believe I ended up with diplomatic immunity. Speaking of which, the princess continued, my brother has asked me to discuss something important with you. Sarah set down her tablet and gave the princess her full attention. Over the weeks of working together, she had come to consider Zarathul a friend as much as a colleague. The negotiations will determine the basic framework for human autonomy within the Empire, the princess began. But there are larger questions about the future. The king believes that successful human integration could serve as a model for other species, seeking greater independence within the imperial structure. That sounds like a good thing, Sarah said cautiously. It is, but it also represents a fundamental shift in how our empire operates. My brother is essentially proposing to transform from a traditional conquest-based empire to a cooperative federation of autonomous worlds. Sarah felt a chill of understanding. And that kind of change would have enemies. Many enemies, the princess confirmed, her skin shifting to worried blue. Conservative factions within our own government, rival empires who prefer dealing with a predictable opponent, species who benefit from the current imperial structure. What does this have to do with me? The princess looked directly into Sarah's eyes. My brother wants to offer you permanent citizenship in the empire, with a hereditary title and position in the imperial court. You would become Lady Sarah Chen, Duchess of Medical Sciences with authority over all interspecies medical research and development. Sarah stared at her in shock. Princess, I'm flattered, but I'm not nobility material. I'm just a doctor who got lucky. You're a doctor who saved my life. Pioneered interspecies medical cooperation, helped negotiate an end to a destructive war, and proved that humans and Zephyrians can work together as equals, the princess corrected. More importantly, you've earned the trust of both species. But I don't want to abandon my people to live among yours, Sarah protested. You wouldn't be abandoning anyone, the princess assured her. The position would require you to travel constantly between human and Zephyrian territories, establishing medical facilities, training joint teams, and serving as a permanent bridge between our species. Sarah walked to the crystal window and looked out at the alien landscape that had become surprisingly familiar. In the distance, she could see construction crews, both human and Zephyrian, working together to build the new medical research complex. There's something else, isn't there? She asked without turning around. The princess joined her at the window. My brother is concerned about the long-term stability of this new arrangement. Conservative factions on both sides will try to undermine cooperation at every opportunity. Having a respected figure like yourself in a permanent position of authority would help ensure continuity. And if something happens to your brother, if the political situation changes, then having a human duchess with full legal standing in the imperial court could be the difference between lasting peace and renewed warfare, the princess said quietly. Sarah understood. She was being asked to become more than a doctor or a diplomat. She was being asked to become a living symbol of human Zephyrian cooperation, a guarantee that could not be easily dismissed or ignored. How long do I have to decide? The formal offer will be made at the conclusion of the peace negotiations, the princess replied. But Sarah, there is one more thing you should know. What's that? The princess's skin shifted to the deep gold of profound gratitude. My brother has decreed that your original act of saving my life will be recorded in the Imperial archives as the moment that changed the course of galactic history. Regardless of your decision about the Duchess position, you will always be remembered as the human who chose healing over hatred and opened the door to a new era of cooperation. As Sarah looked out at the construction crews working together in the alien sunset, she realized that her simple decision to save an injured alien had led to consequences beyond anything she could have imagined. Now she faced the biggest choice of her life: return to her old existence as a colony doctor, or accept a role that would shape the future of two civilizations. The answer, she was beginning to realize, had been obvious from the moment she first chose to heal, rather than harm. 6 months after the peace negotiations concluded, Duchess Sarah Chen stood in the grand ceremonial hall of the New Geneva Medical Complex, the first fully integrated human Zephyrian research facility in the galaxy. The building itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining human architectural principles with Zephyrian crystal-growing technology to create something neither species could have built alone. Today marked the graduation of the first class of interspecies medical practitioners, 50 humans and 50 Zephyrians, who had trained together for 6 months in revolutionary new techniques. Sarah watched with pride as the graduates received their certifications, knowing that each one would go on to establish similar programs throughout the empire. Nervous? Princess Zarathul asked, approaching Sarah's position on the reviewing platform. The princess now held the official title of Imperial Ambassador for Interspecies Cooperation, making their friendship one of the galaxy's most important diplomatic relationships. Always, Sarah replied with a smile. But it's good nervous. The kind that comes with knowing you're part of something bigger than yourself. In the 6 months since accepting her position as Duchess of Medical Sciences, Sarah had traveled to 17 different star systems, establishing medical exchange programs and training facilities. Each new world brought unique challenges, but also incredible opportunities to expand the boundaries of medical knowledge. The graduation ceremony is impressive, observed Admiral Marcus Thompson, Sarah's old friend from the Rebel Medical Corps, who now served as Director of Human Colonial Medical Services. But the real test will be how these teams perform in actual crisis situations. As if summoned by his words, an urgent communication signal interrupted the ceremony. The holographic display that materialized showed Commander Veltar, now serving as head of Interspecies Emergency Response. "Duchess Chen," he said formally, "we have a critical situation developing in the Tau Ceti system. A plague has broken out on the mining world of Kepler 438b, affecting both human and Zephyrian populations. Local medical facilities are overwhelmed." Sarah's mind immediately shifted into crisis mode. "What's the infection vector? Symptoms? Mortality rate?" "Unknown pathogen, apparently adapted to attack both human and Zephyrian biology," the commander replied. "Symptoms include rapid tissue, crystallization in Zephyrians and neural degeneration in humans. Mortality rate approaching 60%. The ceremonial hall fell silent as the magnitude of the crisis became clear. A disease that could kill both species represented exactly the kind of threat that interspecies medical cooperation was designed to address. "How long to reach Tau Ceti?" Sarah asked. 18 hours with the new joint response ships, Princess Zarathul replied. Sarah looked at the graduating medical teams, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This would be their first real test, and it would determine whether months of training could translate into life-saving action. "All right, people," Sarah announced to the assembled graduates. "Ceremony's over. We have work to do." The response was immediate and coordinated. Human and Zephyrian medical teams boarded the rapid response vessels alongside their new equipment, while Sarah coordinated with Imperial Command to establish quarantine protocols and resource allocation. During the 18-hour journey to Tau Ceti, Sarah found herself working more closely with Princess Zarathul than ever before. The princess had insisted on leading the emergency response personally, claiming that royal presence would ensure maximum cooperation from local authorities. "Sarah," the princess said during a brief break in their planning session, "there's something I need to tell you before we arrive." "What's that?" The princess's skin shifted to patterns that Sarah recognized as uncertainty and anticipation. "My brother has been discussing the possibility of formal political alliance between the Zephyrian Empire and the Human Colonial Federation, not just medical cooperation, but full partnership in exploration, defense, and governance." Sarah looked up from the medical reports she had been studying. "That's a bigger step than anyone imagined 6 months ago. The success of your programs has convinced him that humans and Zephyrians can work together as true equals," the princess explained. "But such an alliance would require unprecedented integration at every level of government and society. What role would I play in such an arrangement?" The princess's skin took on the golden hue of deep affection and respect. "My brother wants to propose a joint commission to oversee the alliance, with equal representation from both species. He hopes you would serve as co-chair alongside myself." Before Sarah could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. They had arrived at Tau Ceti, and the situation was worse than anyone had anticipated. The mining world of Kepler 438b was in chaos. Entire settlements had been quarantined, and the death toll was climbing rapidly. Local medical facilities were completely overwhelmed, and panic was spreading faster than the disease itself. Sarah coordinated the medical response from orbit, while her teams deployed to the surface. The interspecies training proved its value immediately, as human and Zephyrian medics worked seamlessly together to establish treatment centers and begin analyzing the unknown pathogen. "Duchess," reported Dr. Kim Park, one of the human graduates, "we've isolated the organism. It's unlike anything in our databases, but it appears to be artificially engineered." "Bioweapon?" Sarah asked grimly. "Possibly, but if so, it's incredibly sophisticated. It targets the fundamental differences between human and Zephyrian biology, almost like it was designed to prove that our species can't safely coexist." Sarah felt a chill of understanding. "Princess, we need to talk privately." In the secure communication chamber, Sarah shared her suspicions with Zarathul. "This isn't a natural outbreak. Someone engineered this pathogen specifically to attack our cooperation programs. The princess's skin shifted through angry reds and defensive oranges. The conservative factions. They've been increasingly vocal about the dangers of interspecies integration. The question is, can we prove it? And more importantly, can we stop it? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Nethkari, one of the Zephyrian graduates, discovered that the pathogen had a critical weakness. It could only survive in environments where human and Zephyrian populations were completely segregated. When the two species worked in close proximity, their combined bioelectric fields created conditions that the engineered organism couldn't tolerate. It's elegant in its cruelty, Sarah observed as they reviewed the findings. The disease literally forces segregation by making cooperation lethal, except that cooperation is actually the cure. The treatment protocol they developed was revolutionary. Mixed teams of human and Zephyrian medical personnel working in direct physical contact while treating patients. The combined bioelectric fields not only neutralized the pathogen, but actually accelerated healing in both species. Within 72 hours, the plague was contained and casualties had dropped to near zero. More importantly, the obvious artificial nature of the pathogen and the effectiveness of interspecies cooperation in combating it provided undeniable proof of the value of the Alliance programs. The investigation has identified the source, Princess Zarathul reported as they prepared to return to the core worlds. A coalition of conservative factions from both our species, working together to undermine cooperation by proving it was dangerous. The irony is perfect, Sarah observed. They had to cooperate to try to prevent cooperation. My brother wants to meet with human leadership immediately, the princess continued. This attack has convinced him that formal alliance isn't just beneficial, it's essential for mutual survival. As their ship departed Tau Ceti, Sarah looked back at the mining world where human and Zephyrian settlements now stood side by side, their populations working together with an integration that would have been unimaginable a year ago. Princess, she said finally, tell your brother I accept the co-chair position. It's time to make this partnership permanent. The princess's skin erupted in patterns of joy and triumph. The galaxy is about to change forever, Sarah. It already has, Sarah replied, thinking back to that moment in an abandoned factory when she chose to save an alien life rather than let an enemy die. We just need to help everyone else catch up. Looking out at the stars, Sarah Chen, Duchess of Medical Sciences and soon-to-be co-chair of the first Human Zephyrian Alliance Commission, smiled at the thought that somewhere among those distant lights other species were watching this unprecedented cooperation with hope, fear, and wonder. The galaxy would never be the same, and it had all started with a simple choice to heal rather than harm. Sometimes, Sarah reflected, the most important revolutions begin not with weapons or speeches, but with one person deciding to do what's right, regardless of the consequences. The war was over. The real work of building peace was just beginning.